You probably heard it the first weekend after school started. If you were here at church, you couldn't have not heard it. My voice was gone completely. I thought it's because I was out front on the first day of school cheering everybody on as they went in, but it became clear over time that was not it. It was more than that. Normally, when I overdo my voice, I know what to do. I do a mixture of apple cider vinegar and lemon juice and some honey. If it's real bad, I can take a potato peeler and put some ginger in there. I drink that in my water bottle for a few days, good as new. Not this time. 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks, and I thought, oh no, I'm still dealing with a little bit of the lingering signs of that even right now. Normally, I manage it on my own, which is not really exactly healing. That's not what healing is. A lot of us doctor our own tired voices. A lot of us know how to do that. I'll bet there's a lot of folks here who would never go to a podiatrist for an ingrown toenail. We take care of that ourselves. But what about the things we can't take care of ourselves? We're hearing about one of those things in the gospel because leprosy is a stand-in for any disease that is overwhelming and that we can't face on our own. Things we cannot manage. Things like brain tumors, ALS, or when the doctor says it's in the pancreas. When we're in one of those kind of situations, we have no power on our own. We are left just breathing slowly, wondering what comes next. So one of the things that we're hearing in the readings tonight is that there are some guidelines for what to do when we are in need of healing that we can get only from God. The first rule is that we should expect that faith is going to be a part of it. In the gospel, the lepers are in front of Jesus Christ himself. They're standing in front of Jesus, and what does he say to them? Go show yourselves to the priests. To the priests? Why would you need to go to a priest if you're standing in front of Jesus himself? It's a way of letting them know and us know you're going to need to turn to your faith. You're going to need to go to where the priest is. You're going to need to turn to the part of your life that is reserved for God and for things that are holy. Recently in our parish, we had a woman who lost her mother, and she was devastated. A lot of you who've lost a parent know that pain. This woman is a little bit isolated in her life, and so her mother was her everything. And it was so hard to watch her grief. So after the funeral, I said to her, you know, we purposely keep this church open at great risk all day long so that people can come in and pray. Maybe you want to come in and, light a candle for your mom. And she said, thank you, Father. She said, I don't feel up to that right now. But when I feel better, I'll come and light a candle for my mom. And I think I can understand where she's coming from. But what do you mean when you feel better? People who feel great don't light candles. The reason we have these candles here and a private place for people to cry their eyes out is because it's for when you don't feel better. If we're in the middle of something, we're going to have to turn to our faith. We can't say, I'll get back to church once this crisis is over and I feel better. That doesn't really make sense. We've got to be willing to dig into our faith when things are bad, when they're at their low. God, it has been said, can heal any broken heart. But first we have to hand over the pieces. If we're going to hold on to the pieces, then we're not allowing God to do the work that is natural for God, that is effortless for God. God can heal our broken hearts, but we have to hand over the pieces. Another guideline that Jesus gives is that the only thing that can make a journey like the ones the lepers have, like the ones that a lot of folks here have been on or are going on now, the only thing that makes it bearable is gratitude. It is interesting that Jesus says to the one of the 10 who came back to say thank you, he says to the one, are you the only one who's showing gratitude? Why do you think he said that? Do you think it's because he's annoyed that he thinks he should be getting more credit and more thanks? Doesn't sound like Jesus. He actually never is trying to take credit for things. He says to the person who does come back, your faith has healed you. Maybe that's what he's doing there, is he's saying, remember, you're going to need your faith to do this. I want you to be grateful, not because it's something that I need, but because it's something that you need. We have a family right now at our school with a sick child. They have a child in elementary school and another one who's a younger brother. And they've been taking the younger brother for tests for a long time to see what's wrong. And recently they got one of those diagnoses that no one wants. And I was talking on the phone to the mom of that little boy from Albany Med. And it was a very real conversation. It was hard at times. We both cried. But it was also filled with gratitude. I couldn't believe how many things she naturally found gratitude for, things that she was thanking God for. She thanked God for the nurses. She thanked God that the doctor that is the one you want for this diagnosis, who hasn't been taking any more cases, was the one who was put on the case. She said that she was grateful that she grew up with a sibling who was persistently and chronically ill. She said, I wasn't grateful for that at the time, but she said, now I know what my child who is not sick needs. I know how to try to balance things. I was that kid who had the sick sibling. I know how to handle this. She was grateful that she's got a supportive and all-in kind of husband. So one of the things we can know about gratitude is there's never a time in life where it's inappropriate to be grateful, that we're just being Pollyanna or we're just being goofy about it. It's never wrong to be grateful. It's never the wrong thing. We can't be grateful for everything that happens, but there's never a moment we'll face where there's not something to be grateful for. Not everything, but something. So this mom, she cannot be grateful for the tumors, but she's grateful for the nurses. She can't be grateful for the cancer, but she is so grateful that science has given us so many therapies to deal with it. She can't be grateful that she had a sick sibling, but she is grateful that she has firsthand knowledge of how to help her children. Many of you remember that one of my dearest friends died last year in a car accident. I've spoken about her before, Sister Mary Francis. She had complications from that accident, but there were several weeks where she was doing up and down in the hospital from after all she'd been through. And she was from South Carolina, and she had this beautiful Carolina drawl, this lilt that I just loved. And I was on the phone with her, and I was listening to her long litany of gratitude. She was grateful for the doctors, for the nurses. She was grateful that God helped her forgive the man who hit her. She was grateful that this crisis in her life had brought a lot of siblings she hadn't talked to in a long time and was bringing healing to the relationships. And I said to her, wow, you really can see how God is working through this accident. And she said in her trademark way, honey, she said, God is doing so much through this, I'm going to need more eyes. 2 isn't enough. So this week, we are being invited to identify what is the healing that we most need from God. Not the little things, not the sore voice or the ingrown toenails, but the real stuff. And it might not be physical. There are people here right now walking with an illness that is a big deal. But other people are walking with other things. It might be a relationship, or some past abuse that hasn't been healed, or horrible self-esteem that has plagued you for a long time, or an addiction. And one of the questions we're being invited this week to ask is, am I bringing that thing to my faith? Am I bringing it? Is that what I'm doing my faith work with right now? Am I here ever lighting a candle for that thing? Am I taking time to ask God about that particular thing? And there's not a person here who's expected to be grateful for a crisis or something awful, but could you name what you are grateful for in this moment? Is there some way to name, even though you can't be grateful for everything, that you can be grateful even in this moment? My voice is starting to come back every day a little stronger. I might even sing a little bit tonight. And this time I know for sure that this healing did not come from me. But then again, does it ever?